Creating broadcast.
Yeah, we just got this horrible letter in to the show.
Oh.
They got a hold of some really wrong information and were very mad that we said things that they didn't like.
Oh.
Even though we were being supportive of everyone, but you know how it is.
Mm-hmm. I mean...
And since we're going live, I won't.
Yeah. I mean...
Yeah,
you
go into it. I'll tell you about it afterwards.
Sure. I mean, you go to the ladies' church social, and you're expected to have some of Clarice's potato salad, even though she insists on putting raisins in it.
Oh. I've heard of that. It's just hideous, girl.
Oh, and where we get that from, right? That's a Wanda-ism. Hideous.
Hideous, yeah. That and oh, hey there, hi there, oh there.
Yes.
I still do that sometimes.
Oh, jeez. And then
and there was a show with Omar. Do you remember Omar? Were you around for Omar?
I don't think
And
so.
he'd come on and he'd say, "Hola, chicas," and I still have to stop myself from saying that because now it's misappropriation. But
well, and then of course,
unless I walk into a bunch of a room with Latinx queens, then that could work. Be like, "Hola, chicas."
Oh, I'll have to go back to it and see if I can figure it out. But there was one thing that Wanda used to say when somebody was basically off their rocker, but she would also invent words, like Pakunski.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, it's right at the top of the hour, and it looks like we have a couple of folks in the chat room already. Did we want to start right off, or do we want to just wait 2 minutes?
We're welcome to wait a couple minutes.
Oh, we are being heard, apparently.
Hey.
And I am actually thankful tonight for a new pair of headphones that I treated myself to. They aren't terribly expensive, but the ones that I had were falling apart, and I literally had to put tape on the, the earpieces because they were coming apart, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to go look for a nice pair. Honk. Yeah, and it was time because I've been doing this 8, 9, maybe plus years now. 100
years, yeah.
Yeah. Since somebody was knee high to a grasshopper, I can't figure out who to blame yet. Matt is a little echoey.
Am I a little echoey?
Yes, but so are you normally, Toppy.
Oh, Toppy's in the chat room?
Uh-huh. Are you in the chat room, sir?
I am not in the chat room yet. I'm actually was trying to raise my audio a little bit so that I could hear you a little better, but unfortunately, everything I have is maxed out.
Ooh. That's okay. I can hear you. That's the only important thing. It's what we get for recording inside of a bathtub. There's that Clarice and her potato salad.
Sister, been on my mind.
They call me Mr. Sister.
I was going for purple. No, not Purple Rain. The color purple.
Oh, okay.
But, I'll take that too.
I mean, somewhere out there is a drag version of it where they, the song is They Call Me Mr. Sister.
Somewhere out there beneath the veil. See, that's one of the things when you get to a certain age and you're a music addict. Everything everybody says, there's a lyric in it.
My favorite thing, and I remember before because I don't know if you've noticed this, it seems like a lot of stores don't play music anymore.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I mean, at least the ones that I go to, but, I don't go anywhere fancy. But they used to say that when you're getting old when the songs you grew up with are turned into Muzak in the grocery store or, elevators. But nowadays, I hear a lot of songs slowed down and turned into jazz songs, which is not necessarily a bad thing because some of them are actually better than the originals.
Yes, I do know what you mean, that whole Muzak thing. Not to mention... Gosh. Sorry, making adjustments here. Not to mention when you're in the store and you hear this rockin', 80s tune that you're like, oh man, I love this song. And they're like, and this is the classic rock station from 40 years ago.
Oh, screw you. I'll just go over here down the aisle that no one's in and cry into the marshmallows.
Or rock out. I mean, hey, Bryan Adams, right?
Right, and
of course, it's always funny that on Skype, or not Skype, but on Facebook and all those other things, I always get tagged when somebody hears a Crayheart song. I was thinking of you.
If you want to revisit the 80s too hard, you can always go down the aisle with the household cleaners because they leave the caps off some of those. So, hey, it's a few minutes after the top of the hour. I'll go ahead and get this kicked off, all right?
All right.
Good evening, and welcome to the beautiful, historical Marionette Theater. Tonight, we're going to be visiting a film from the early mid-2010s, and this is actually based on a true story about one of the most heroic moments in the U.S. Coast Guard's history. Please take your seats. The show is about to begin. Oh, hey there, folks. It is the middle of May. Can you believe it? And, well, I've got a little surprisey for you folks out there. We have a visitor from the Golden Coast. He made it in on the Learjet just in time to join us tonight. Read any good books lately, Matt?
No, but I've written a few.
Oh. So we have Matt from, of course, Chubb's Gone Wild and the Big Gay Sex Show, The Daddy Years, joining us tonight. And just an aside note, tonight's episode is dedicated to the Smelly family. There was recently a family emergency, so Toppy couldn't join us tonight. Our thoughts go out to them, and we send them well wishes and healing energy, and we hope that he will be back in the balcony before you know it.
Yeah.
So, Matt, I hear that because of that little incident you had the last time you flew cross country there, you had to have an adult with you. Your southern cousin came with you, isn't that right?
Oh, yes, sweet cousin Emmylou. She's still, she doesn't understand exactly how planes work, but once I got her inside and got enough Dramamine in her, she passed out and she's fine.
Well, as per usual around here, Miss Gertie, well, she phoned it in tonight. Now, I think she's got a little bit of the brown bottle flu, but she also takes to being a little shy when there's another lady in the house. So, Emmylou, would you do us a favor and step down there to the stage? We always have a lady tell us about the movie we're going to discuss tonight, okay? All right, here.
That just sounds fine, honey.
All right, here we go. Oh, wrong one.
Well, hello, friends. This is Cousin Emmylou, and I want to tell you about a little movie that's called The Finest Hours. And in it, Bernie is a Coast Guard captain stationed at the southeast tip of Cape Cod, one of the most eastward coastal areas, and well, he's just seen it all. Each year, the service seems to bring more surprises and challenges. After months of talking to a certain special someone on the phone, they finally agree to meet and fall in love in no time. And no sooner do the sparks fly after she asked him to marry her, then Bernie sent him to the fray. But an oil tanker split in two and the crew needs rescuing. Will Bernie's crew survive the same terrible storm? Will they ever get past that big sandbar out there? Will Miriam give up hope? Grab a life jacket and a compass. And you'll need the compass, because it's time for Finest Hours, which is based on a real true story. And it stars Chris Pine and Eric Bana. Take it away, guys.
What do you get when you take a dash to the silver screen? A pinch of golden oldies and a smidgen of screaming. It's time for Matinee Minutia with your hosts BJ and Tommy.
Oh, alrighty. So it's a little earlier out there on the Golden Coast compared to the East here. It's already Friday night, and those of us without social lives, well, we like to talk trivia. And, we also talk about what's going on this time of month in Mother's Day just passed. And, Matt, I haven't, I'm a little behind in my listening. Did you do anything special?
Behind.
Yeah, well, if only it was little. Did you do anything special with your mommy?
I told her that she was lucky that I turned out decent, and she agreed, and then we went our separate ways. No, actually, I bought her some Buddhas, and I ordered her lunch, and it was just a very nice day. But her birthday is in a month, actually a month yesterday.
Yeah.
And we're going to try to do something fun for that.
Well, yeah. We normally get together with Mama Billy, but of course, as I was talking behind the curtain before the show, hubby's boss is actually out of the country on vacation conveniently, so he's minding the store, and he actually just today got his makeup date with his mom for Mother's Day. They went out for lunch, so I'll hear about how that went later, I'm sure.
Yes.
The last time we got together for a meal out, we all came down with COVID, but that was back in January.
Yikes.
So, a point of interest for you all, maybe if you're perusing the web and, shamelessly, I'm just going to say it, Amazon wish list, but, yours truly's anniversary is actually tomorrow. Now, there's a couple of other significant things about tomorrow, which is May 18th. It was my husband's grandmother's birthday. Now, we didn't have our first date sharing her piece of cake, no, but hubby remembered later that day after our date was over that there was something else special about that day. He missed Grandma's birthday, but truth be told, it was not her last, so it had a good ending to that. But more importantly, May 18th is also Armed Forces Day, which is interesting because we're talking about a film with one of the parts of the armed forces, the Coast Guard. It's an important group of folks doing their duty. Now, Matt, I was going to ask you, I know about myself and I'll share more in a moment, but did you have any family members that served in the military?
Actually, yes, quite a bit. Both our Air Force and Navy. My dad was a Navy man during Vietnam. Mm-hmm. And then my great-grandfather and most of that generation served, of course, in the wars and things like that. And then I had, what was he? A rear admiral who was in charge of... I don't even, and the sad thing is I can't remember anything except his last name was Byrd, mm-hmm. And he actually was like a huge player in World War II to the point where there are like files on him that can't even be released. Like he was like somebody. So yeah, and very very proud of them. But I never had the inclination myself.
Yeah, I mean, I love my country, but there was just something about not having the right to marry that put me a little sour on that for a while. But anyway,
or the right to serve. Well, actually, you're younger, so you may have had the right to serve. But in my day, we still had the no. We didn't even have it. Don't ask, don't tell until I was in my 20s-ish. So,
yeah. Well, I actually was once walking the parking lot of a shopping mall, and I didn't own a car in these days. And there was a young lady who was doing her best to recruit for the armed forces. And, when I told her that I was a man of a different kind of cloth, she acted surprised. And I'm like, yes, we're out there, sister. But anyways, in terms of Armed Forces Day, each of my dad's brothers, so my uncles, were in the service. I had an uncle who was in the Air Force, and I believe 2 that were in the Army. One of them became of age just at the right time because his family was going through a divorce. So instead of sticking around and putting up with the family drama, he said, I'm out of here. And he went to Korea and Vietnam for his troubles. But he was a cook in the Army. And I didn't get to know him until after his mother, my grandmother, passed away. I didn't get to know her either because she remarried and moved out of state. But he came back for her funeral, passed through the area, got to meet him, and it was really cool because he was my dad's older brother, and he had stories about when Dad would get in trouble. But my uncle, he continued his path there with cooking and went to serve aboard a offshore oil rig in some of his later days. So yes, the Armed Forces Day is May 18th. So all right, so continuing forward, Matt, you got a little line there.
Yeah, actually, real quick, in the chat room, Mr. Toppy actually is also related to Admiral Byrd, so we have a little family connection there.
Oh, my.
And I actually, I imagine we have a lot of family connections, but, Anyway, moving on, I have a line somewhere. Oh, here we go. Okay, so one of the things that we like to do here at Matinee Minutia is we like to set the stage, like a really good upscale play that you pay like $50 a ticket for. But you're getting all this for free.
And don't fall asleep in the audience.
Yeah, Toppy. Anyway, but what I mean is that we like to talk about what's going on in the world in the time frame of the setting, which in this case was 1952. Really? Yeah. 1952 for this movie.
Mm-hmm. So we normally talk about the year
the movie. Wait a minute.
Wait. We normally talk about the year that the movie came out, but I figured since this is based on a true story, we would celebrate the spirit of the story by talking about the year that it took place during.
Well, I like that idea, and it's much more interesting since this movie came out in 2016. We kind of know what happened, right?
Exactly, and nobody was born then that has had any chance of making a name for themselves. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this old school. Here's the movie tone sound you would have heard in theaters when the breaking news hit. U.S. history in 1952. Can't talk over that. So, okay, in 1952... on January 14th, The Today Show first premiered on NBC and still running strong today. Now, there's actually so much that went on in 52, I might need a little help here in the next paragraph.
Sure.
So, in 1952, a mechanical heart is used for the first time in a human patient. Little steps forward there. Emmett Ashford became the first African American umpire in organized baseball in 52. And then the U.S. Senate, that's one of our branches of government. They ratified a peace treaty, which was the Treaty of San Francisco with Japan. It only took 7 years after the end of World War II. I mean, that's progress, I guess. And in 1952, President Harry S. Truman, he announced that he would not be seeking re-election because he had already served 2 terms. And, coincidentally, the 22nd Amendment had already been passed, which introduced term limits for the presidency for the first time in American history. It was ratified in 1951.
Wow, that's the same year my mama was born.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what? U.S. Lieutenant Colonel Joseph O. Fletcher and William P. Benedict land a plane at the geographic North Pole. That's pretty cool. The Keen is laid for
Keel.
Keel, thank you. Yeah. I was like, what's a key? Okay. All right, so the keel is laid for the U.S. nuclear submarine, the USS Nautilus, but the first nuclear-powered U.S. Navy submarine. Oh. Several alleged UFO attacks, tracked. UFOs were tracked. They did not attack. That was a whole different story. On multiple radars, and jets scramble on several occasions, and the objects take evasive action, only to return after the jets leave the area.
And actually, there's a little detail missing there. Sorry.
Really?
Remind me to fire that intern. But this was all in D.C. All this kerfuffle happened around the nation's capital in 52.
Ooh, wow. I wonder if it was a Chinese air balloon.
It might have been Harry Truman just trying to hail the mothership.
Oh, well, he was leaving anyway. He couldn't run again.
Mm-hmm.
But also, Puerto Rico becomes a self-governing commonwealth of the United States.
Oh, well, we're very thankful for Puerto Rico because it brings us the very handsome and talented Wilson Cruz, the doctor of Star Trek Discovery.
Martin,
he's into feet. That weirds me out. Just kidding. But maybe not.
To each their own. Just walk away. Just walk away.
Okay, so in 52, the United Nations begins working in their new headquarters in New York City. The groundbreaking for the building was back in 48. So, also in 52, we had some advancements in technology and steps into the big brotherhood. Nuclear testing. Operation Ivy. The U.S. successfully detonates the first hydrogen bomb, codenamed Mike, I'm going to say this wrong, but Enewetak Atoll in the Marshall Islands in the Central Pacific Ocean with a yield of 10.4 megatons. I mean, Marvin the Martian might understand.
They were very destructive in the 50s.
Yes. I mean, telling people what to do with their bodies and revealing
bombs everywhere. UFOs. Oh my goodness.
People couldn't even have bank accounts of their own.
Women.
Yeah. So the New York in 52, the New York Daily News carries a front page story that year announcing that Christine Jorgensen, a transsexual woman, which we would probably call her transgender these days, in Denmark, had become the recipient of the first successful sexual reassignment operation in 52. And also, while we're talking about medical marvels, the first successful surgical separation of conjoined, but then known as Siamese twins, was conducted in Mount Sinai Hospital in Cleveland, Ohio.
Wow.
So Matt...
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so Matt, we often talk about people who entered the world at this time, and we're talking about the year of this story, which was 1952. Who, of importance, came into being that year?
Well, looking at this list, nobody of interest, but I'll read a few anyway. Well, first off, there's Marilyn Chambers, the adult film star.
Mm.
We all know what she was in, but we don't talk about that on this show. Then we have, well, Christine Baranski. I mean, she did a few things.
She
like
was
The Gilded Age, and yeah.
She was originally from Buffalo, New York.
Really?
She was.
And she still managed to be successful. That's great.
Oh.
And then we had Robert Zemeckis. He did Back to the Future or
and a whole
Goonies
bunch
or something like that. Little things. And then was it Diane Duane, who is a sci-fi author, and then Carol Kane. Oh, she was in Taxi. Yeah, she had like one or two little roles here and there.
And she's the chief engineer on the Enterprise on Star Trek: Strange New Worlds.
And she lived over 300 years.
Yeah,
so far. It's pretty impressive. Then we have I've never heard of this guy, John Goodman. I think he was on the Connors and about 450 movies that we've watched recently, including Godzilla -1. Did you? No. He was on the Godzilla series. Did you watch it?
No, I haven't yet.
But... Oh my gosh! If you have not watched the Godzilla series that is on Apple TV, find a way to watch it. It is really, really good.
Is that about that government agency Monarch or something like that?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Then I probably have seen some of that because that's one of hubby's guilty pleasures.
But you need to see all of it because season 2 is coming out before long. Okay, then there was this guy named Grant Goodeve. He played on 8 is Enough.
The oldest son.
And he actually, did you know that he sang the theme song?
Oh.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. Now, I've never heard of this David Hasselhoff. He was that German musician.
You know, the drunk guy that eats cheeseburgers on motel room floors?
Yeah, I know somebody had sex with him. Anyway, then there's also Patrick Swayze, who did Roadhouse and Ghost. Okay, I think I might have seen that. Paul Rubens, Pee Wee Herman.
And many other things, of course.
Well, and Christopher Reeve, who was in Superman in the 1980s. I mean, kind of remember him. Harry Anderson from Night Court. I love Harry Anderson. I'm sorry, I really do. Okay, and then Jeff Goldblum is in The Fly. Alfie Woodard, who is in Miss Evers' Boys and 150 movies, including a Star Trek movie.
Yes, Lily. She's the reason that any non-fan would watch that movie because she's just...
she's brilliant.
Yes.
Yeah. And then we have also birthdays. Oh, these are birthdays that happened today. Trent Reznor and Enya.
Who would have thought that they share a birthday?
Not me, but I know now. Let me tell you, this list is impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is like star power after star power. They may have had nuclear bombs, but they were making nuclear actors at the same time.
I mean, and I'm sure some of them had a family member in the armed forces because, they were making babies when they came home from the war.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's what you did. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, Poppy. That's Nancy.
So, because tonight's topic is a movie, we're going to talk about what else was competing for your attention in theaters. And now we're moving forward to more present day. In 2016, our film tonight, The Finest Hours, was released on January 27th of that year. So it wasn't a holiday movie. It wasn't a summer date movie. We just put it in there in the new year and said, watch it. The new Captain Kirk's in it. But let's see here now. And it came in at number 94. Now, so that's not a record for us. I'm sure we've talked about things that have made less money. But the films that were at the top of the box office then, including number 1, it's a sequel, wouldn't you know, brought in $486.2 million, Finding Dory. It's an animated film. It had the voices of Ellen DeGeneres and Albert Brooks in a sequel that was a long time in the making. Now,
Just keep swimming.
Yes, just keep swimming. And number 2 at the box office that year, bringing in $408.2 million, was a film that was a continuation of the Star Wars saga, Rogue One, a Star Wars story. And it starred Felicity Jones and Diego Luna, because it had to star someone.
That was one of the best Star Wars movies. It really was, especially the newer stuff.
I was going to say, I know people who would say that film was better than any of the prequels that were done. So
it was good.
And number 3 at the box office that year in 2016 at $408 million was Captain America: Civil War. I think this was the 3rd film in that series with Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. So, to put things into perspective, as I said, Finest Hours is number 94 at the box office. The film that did one better, bringing in $28.1 million, was a film just called Joy. You know, like the dish soap. It had Jennifer Lawrence and Robert De Niro, and it was about a woman who rose to become founder and matriarch of a powerful business family dynasty. Oh, Catfight, or maybe that was another show. The movie that did one less than the final hour, or Finest Hours, brought in $27.3 million at number 93. This is a film with Meryl Streep and Hugh Grant. And I have to admit, I've actually considered watching this for a while and haven't gotten around to it. Florence Foster Jenkins. It's about a New York heiress who dreamed of becoming an opera singer despite having a terrible singing voice.
Oh, I remember something about that. Okay, let me tell you something. In my opinion, okay. So first off, I didn't even know they would have a rank 94 for movies. Okay, I mean, there's like 12 that you get to see in the theater at any given time. So, but Meryl Streep and Hugh Grant, and it's a bomb. Jennifer Lawrence and Robert De Niro, and it's a bomb. I mean, those must be some really bad movies. Or some really good movies.
But you know
how things are these days.
Right. Now, normally we would just continue our merry way along, but I think Emmy Lou might have knocked the nozzle off the nitrous because we're getting a little giggly and long-winded. So I'm going to go ahead and bring us over to here. We're going to step on over to our refreshment stand, where this evening we're going to be having some refreshments inspired by the New England coast in winter. We've sprinkled some coconut over these blue drinks, and we hope you enjoy them. So, for your listening enjoyment, we have an interview with Mr. Chris Pine, who played the lead in tonight's film, Bernie Weber, Coast Guard captain. And this was an interview with Fandango, the folks that do those feature bonus material stuff in the movie theater when you're waiting for it to start. And unlike most interviews, you don't get to hear the questions asked for some reason. But hey, here we go.
In our film, Bernie is he's a sweet man. He's a sweet, gentle person. I think a person who hasn't really found his voice quite yet and grew up in a family of really very strong men that went to war and went to battle and got their badges that way. And I think Bernie's a man who feels incredibly kind of feeling surrounded by all of this heroism and having not gone to war, he feels a sense of maybe shame or that he should have been there, and that the accolades and the attention went elsewhere in his family to his older brothers. In the beginning of the film, he meets this beautiful woman, Miriam Pennington. It's the first time they've met. They've met in this kind of very bizarre way. Miriam worked at the phone exchange and heard his voice when Bernie, on attempting to go on another date with his friend Gus, they got waylaid and their car broke down, and he had to call these ladies to tell them that they weren't coming to the date. And Miriam heard his voice and then called him up, and they started talking. They started this relationship over the phone, which is finally brings us to this night when we first meet the two of them. It's the first time they're meeting, and Bernie's incredibly nervous and is really in love already with Miriam, and I think basically knows that this is the one. And it's just, I don't know, it's this beautifully produced scene in the sense. What I mean by that is that it's just the diner is almost like an Edward Hopper painting. And the first time we see Miriam, she almost looks like a woman out of a Vermeer painting. It's so beautifully lit, and she's so luscious and angelic, and it's a film from another time. It almost feels like a film that would have been or should have been made in the 50s at one of the studios. Craig Gillespie's directing, and Craig is, I think, having come from the world of commercials, for the budget that we have, for the tight schedule that we have, strictly technically speaking, is a great fit because he knows how to get stuff done for as cheaply as possible in the quickest amount of time, which studios love. So he has an incredible facility to not be overwhelmed by what could appear to be very daunting, which is working in water, which is notoriously difficult, working with these humongous sets. And what I've really appreciated about Craig, because ultimately that's not my concern. Really my concern is how his interaction with the actors and the moments and the scenes and the direction of the characters. He gives the actors great latitude to explore, and sometimes directors can take the responsibility and become dictatorial and kind of order people around, but Craig is, he leaves the boundaries kind of wide open to figure out a moment, or that maybe what's on the page can be taken a different way, or and he really, in terms of what I did, really pushed me to try to figure out a character that I'd never really played before, and was very kind of frightening to take on this innocent man, and I appreciate him kind of pushing me and challenging me to do that, however it's received.
Alrighty, so we're continuing on, and we're going to talk about some of the people who came together to make this film, and the person behind the camera making all the decisions on where to stand and what lights to use is the director. Matt, if you could, please tell us a little bit about the man who brought us The Finest Hours.
Well, director Craig Gillespie was born on September 1st, 1967, and was an Australian-American director known for such films as Lars and the Real Girl from 2007. Oh dear, that was a movie and a half. Fright Night 2011, and I, Tonya 2017. Oh, and Cruella from 2021. He was raised in Sydney, moved to New York at 19 to study at the School of Visual Arts, and he started his career in ad agencies before becoming a director in 1995 and eventually going to MJZ in 2000. That's where he won several awards for his commercials, including the Directors Guild of America and a Golden Lion at Cannes. Then his first feature film, Mr. Woodcock, from 2007, which he left under negative test screenings. Yeah, he directed Lars and the Real Girl afterward. Went on to the United States of Tara. Wow.
Oh, that's got one of our favorites, Toni Collette, in that.
Yeah. And then he went on to the Dallas Buyers Club. Wow, he's got quite a litany of pieces here. And then he directed Fright Night remake in 2011 and a Kid Cudi music video. Never heard of him or her or them. And then the finest hours in 2014 for Disney. Really, that was a Disney flick? Actually, I'm not surprised. And then I, Tonya, which was critically acclaimed, and he directed Cruella in 2021 with a sequel in development. So he's done very well for himself. He also directed Dumb Money, about the GameStop short squeeze, which was set for release in 2023. And is still in talks to direct Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow for DC Studios. I think he would do really well with that. I mean, The Finest Hours was a really well done movie.
Mm-hmm. Now, Matt, I was wondering, have you seen Cruella?
No.
Oh, well, I'll make it short and sweet, but it's, as they call the prequels nowadays, they call them an origin story. And I was actually pleasantly surprised because this one was actually really well done. It gives the backstory of the baddie in the 101 Dalmatians story.
Mm-hmm. Without the dogs, right?
Right. Well, actually, they come in later, and I'm forgetting who plays her. The villain is basically the villain in the making, because it's her origin story is wronged by essentially a Karen, her well-to-do boss who mistreats her, and it just goes on from there. So. Anywho, so this is a movie, and of course we've got other people lining up to bat and playing the characters, and as you heard during the intermission there, Mr. Chris Pine was our leading man. He played Bernie Weber. Now, Pine was born in Los Angeles in 1980, so, he's a youngin'. His father is Robert Pine, who was the handsome, blonde-haired, blue-eyed star of the California Highway Patrol show CHiPs in the late 70s and 80s. Now, Chris Pine's mother is also an actress who later turned to working in therapy, psychotherapy. His maternal grandmother was also once an actress, and his grandfather was an attorney who served as the president of the California Bar Association. So he's got some connections. So after high school, Chris Pine would attend UC Berkeley, where he'd receive his bachelor's in English. There he'd begin working in theater as an alternative to fraternities, because he wanted a real life. And he began acting in television during the early 2000s. He would appear in episodes of ER, The Guardian, and CSI Miami. But his first big role was in 2004, where he starred in the sequel to the movie with Anne Hathaway, Princess Diaries 2, A Royal Engagement.
Guilty pleasure.
Yes. Now, well, of course it has Julie Andrews in it. I have to watch it. So, The Finest Hours, the film we're discussing tonight, was Pine's 20th film. 20, folks. He may be a youngin', but he's paying the bills. And it was his 20th film in just the decade, short of a little more than a decade of his career thus far. Now, in the 5 years prior to The Finest Hours, Pine would appear in 9 films, among which includes 3 in 2012 alone. A film called Celeste and Jesse Forever, which he has starred alongside Elijah Wood. Also in 2012, a film called This Means War, which had another Star Trek actor, Tom Hardy, and Angela Bassett. And then also in 2012, People Like Us, which had Michelle Pfeiffer. In 2013, Pine would appear in the first of 2 so far sequels to the 2009 Star Trek, directed by J.J. Abrams. And in 2014, he would appear in the film based on the Tom Clancy novels Jack Ryan, Shadow Recruit, alongside Kevin Costner. So he's already working with some big names here.
Yeah, just some bad projects, except for Star Trek.
And in the 5 years that followed The Finest Hours, Pine has appeared in 4 additional films, including a personal favorite, Star Trek Beyond, which I personally think is the best of the 3. Wonder Woman in 2017 with Gal Gadot. Oh, I'd love to meet her. And in 2018, he was in a Disney film with Oprah Winfrey and Reese Witherspoon, A Wrinkle in Time, based on the novel.
We'll forgive him for that one.
And, of course, he was also in the sequel to the first Wonder Woman 1984, which had Saturday Night Live's Kate McKinnon, which I didn't think was too bad a movie. I mean, there was a lot of anticipation for it, and some people were disappointed. But she's a comedic actress trying to play a somewhat serious role.
I think she did a good job. I think they didn't develop her character enough.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, it took you right back to 1984. They did a really good job.
It was
with the culture.
It was very pretty, and as I understand it, they had to revitalize a dead mall to film it.
Yes, I imagine. They did a great job.
They did. So Chris Pine continues to work in film and television. In 2023 alone, he appeared in 3 films. And his latest film is something called Pool Man, which has Jennifer Jason Leigh, Danny DeVito, and Annette Bening. And to date, Chris Pine has 64 acting credits. Not bad for someone younger than myself.
No, not at all. And he's incredible. I'm really impressed by him. And who his father was, the guy from Chips. Mm-hmm. I mean, come on. That's pretty cool. Anyway, hey, let's turn from the Pine and get to the Affleck, because there ain't a good movie without an Affleck in it.
Yes, please.
We have Casey Affleck, who played Ray Siebert, and Casey was born in 1975 on August 12th, which means he's Cancer, I believe, and was an American actor. He is the youngest brother, of course, of Ben Affleck, and has won prestigious awards, including the Academy Award, the British Academy Film Award, and a Golden Globe. He started as a child actor in Lemon Sky in 1988. He appeared in several Gus Van Sant films, which is amazing to put on your resume. And his first leading role, of course, was in Lonesome Jim in 2006. Don't remember it, but okay. Anyway, his early career was influenced by his mother's connections, and of course, he pursued acting seriously in high school, moved to Los Angeles, and despite being in roles like To Die For and Good Will Hunting, he faced career challenges until his breakthrough in 2007 in the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. Try fitting that on the marquee. And Gone Baby Gone, which he got critical acclaim for. So, anyway, after a setback with his directorial project, I'm Still Here, in 2010, he made a strong comeback with performances in Ain't Them Body Saints. What? I have not heard of that. Out of the Furnace and Interstellar. Anyway, but his role in Manchester by the Sea, which was in 2016, earned him an Academy Award for Best Actor. So he continued with roles. A Ghost Story in 2017, The Old Man and the Gun in 2018, Light of My Life in 2019, Our Friend, and A World to Come in 2020. And, of course, in 2013, he appeared in Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer, which finally there was like a movie that I knew the name of. So I'm just saying. But that's an incredible career.
Mm-hmm.
And he's still young.
Okay.
So, did you want to tell us about Holliday Grainger?
Yeah, so the love interest in The Finest Hours, the auburn-haired beauty, was a phone operator. Now, if you did get to watch tonight's movie, and it's available on Disney Plus for those of you interested in seeing it, they don't quite explain how Chris Pine's character meets his love interest. So in the interview that we played during the intermission, it's explained that she's a telephone operator. And of course, in those days, they had things like party lines and switchboards. So he met her because she basically connected the call that he was making, and she liked the sound of his voice, so they just kept talking. So Holliday Grainger, she played Miriam Pentinen, and that was the love interest in The Finest Hours. And she's an English actress born in Manchester, England, which is about halfway between London and the border of Scotland, so it's the middle of the country. And she began acting at the age of 5. By 2011, she was acting in The Bourgeois, which was a UK TV series with 3 seasons, starring handsome Jeremy Irons. And it was shot on location in Hungary. Ooh. That same year, she would appear in a film version of an 1885 French novel that sounds like an adult film studio because it has the same name, Belle Amie. And
Yes.
this starred Uma Thurman and Robert Pattinson, Vampire No More.
Yeah.
And she would also appear that year in Great Expectations, which is based upon a Charles Dickens novel, with, of all people, diva Helena Bonham Carter. Oh my,
Wow.
sign me up. Finest Hours was her first American film, and just prior, she'd appeared in the 2015 Disney film Cinderella as Anastasia, one of the supporting characters. And this was alongside a cast that included Kate Blanchett and, once again, Helena Bonham Carter. I have a theory. She's traveling in her suitcase.
Oh.
And or at least on her coattails. Over the next 5 years, Holliday Grainger would appear in 5 films, including a film called Tulip Fever in 2017 with Dame Judi Dench, and a film in 2018 with Anna Paquin, which was Tell It to the Bees. And
you have to do that. You have to tell the bees about births and deaths and things. It's very important.
Well, some of the best movies are stories with bee charmers. And Grainger remains active working in television in more recent years, and most recently she starred in the BBC's CB, like Charlie Bravo, CB Strike. And this was a series about a war veteran who investigates brutal murders.
Oh.
Grainger has also been in the cast of the Granger has also been cast in the forthcoming, which means it hasn't come out yet, film Halo of Stars with Lily Collins, who's the star of Netflix's Emily in Paris series.
Oh my, okay.
And the storyline is set against the backdrop of a small traveling circus. A clown and his young daughter lead each other through the everyday mysteries of love, magic, and loss.
Well, hopefully it's a nice clown.
Yes, not one that wants you to go into storm drains.
No. Although I do like the memes where the two German shepherds are laying there and said, "We ate that clown."
Right. They tasted funny, huh? So, before we wind things down and get to other things you might enjoy, Matt, let's take a minute and reflect. Get out your little hand mirror, check the pancake. So, was this the first time you had seen The Finest Hours?
Yes, and unless I was watching it for this show, I would not have watched it.
No.
It just C movies and stuff like that just really aren't my thing. But it was good. It was really good, and I sat riveted the whole time. I love a good, overcoming the obstacles and everything movie, and of course, Chris is a very handsome man. But especially since it was based on a true story, which I really didn't realize until halfway through. But the direction was completely on point. The story, except for the first part, how they met, was a little wonky, but the story was on par. They did wonderful editing. The cinematography was beautiful. I would give this movie a top rating. Yeah. I
hadn't seen this movie before either. I chose it because it bore resemblance to other popular things that we've enjoyed. And, of course, my nerd brother tends to enjoy movies that involve disasters. Things like The Poseidon Adventure and The Towering Inferno. But I was just saying in our last show that movies like this I compare to The Perfect Storm, which apparently took place in more recent years. That was actually based on a true story in the 90s. And despite it having a pretty person in the cast, I didn't enjoy it. Maybe because, spoiler alert, it's like, 20 years old now? Everybody dies.
Oh, well then that wasn't a perfect storm. That was a tragic storm.
Yeah, and I've said that I think that the state of Massachusetts Board of Tourism should pay people not to watch that movie, because who would on purpose go to that state after seeing that movie? It doesn't paint a warm, fuzzy picture. But getting back to The Finest Hours, I agree with you. It has some beautiful cinematography, and the colors are quite rich. The hair of the leading lady in the movie, Miriam, was very warm, and it was almost like a glass of scotch or something. And when he saw her in the phone booth, he made fun of her, of course, because she was wearing I don't know if it was actually a fur coat, but he teased her and said that she looked like Smokey the Bear standing there because of her hair matching her coat. But the things that I enjoyed the most about this movie were mainly the love interest parts, because so taking it back to moments in the movie, do you remember the scene when, after Bernie has left on the mission, his girlfriend turned fiance comes to the Coast Guard station looking for him? And what happens when she steps into the dining room or the mess hall?
she sits down. Well, basically, I'll tell her to get out. But...
Right. That was one of my favorite moments because the best friend of the main character takes one look at her and says to her, "What are you doing? This isn't what the other girls do. This isn't what the other wives do."
And that's one of the things that I agree with you. And when she kept asking the commander to bring them back, tell them to come back, and she didn't back down until she was basically screamed at. She was a very strong, different woman for 1952 time period, and it made her stood out, and it made me like her a lot.
But I think that the best point of this is, what was her line when the guy told her that the other women don't do this?
I'm not other women.
No. Oh, she just simply looked at him and said, "So?"
Yeah, exactly. And that I loved her for that. I loved her for being different. She was the one who asked him to marry her, and everybody made fun of that. And I'm like, "You go, girl." You know.
You know, you don't know what her journey has been. Maybe she's lost family members and she doesn't want to waste time with the whole dating game. She's pretty sure.
She's a strong girl.
And, you know, if you watch the film and sit through the credits, it's one of those great things that they've done in movies before where they tell you, if it's based on a true story like this, what became of those people. And point of fact, in the credits, they say, and they did get married on the date that she chose.
Yes. It was like April 17th or something like that.
Well, and of course, the important thing about that is that it's after tax day.
Yeah.
So maybe
that's true. So you have a whole new year to...
So maybe that's why she picked it. But
maybe,
you know, just the fact that she was a telephone operator and that's how they met gives you perspective on this story, because even though this took place back in 1952 now, you know, if you think about it, this is an introduction to modern relationships. It's like they had online dating before the internet.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, very cute. But you know what? You just pieced it together for me, because I'm like, how did they start talking on the phone? Like, what? But now she was an operator. He would call. They would talk. Now it makes sense to me.
Because what we don't necessarily understand as a modern audience is that in 1952, when this story took place, it was very common for people to have what they called a party line in their home. It cost you mega bucks to have your own private line. And whenever you picked up to make a phone call, you couldn't call your relative out of state across the country just by the keys on your phone pad. There was no direct dialing in 1952. You had to crank up the operator and say, I want to make a call to, you know, New York or Minneapolis or whatever. And, you know, in those days, just like maybe if you had an extension phone in the house and your sibling picked up and listened in on your calls to your best friend, in those days, the operators, they didn't have a social life necessarily. They sat there and listened in on your call.
They would have been bored. But yeah, yeah. So I think that's pretty cool. So now I get it. Now I get how they met.
But they could have done more to you know, introduce that.
Yes, and that's the thing, is that I was kind of missing, is I felt like they just kind of dropped us into it. I wish they had explained that a little better.
But the happy thought that this you know, brings us is that, of course, as they said, this is one of the greatest rescue stories of the Coast Guard of a small ship, because they brought back 32 survivors. And also, Bernie and Miriam, the couple in the movie that are based on the real people, were married for 58 years before they were parted by death.
Mm-hmm.
So
they made it last. They were meant to be together.
they had quite a story. So, alrighty, we are at the point in our show where we're going to tell you about other things that you might enjoy if you like films like The Finest Hours. This is what we call our snack tray. I will go ahead and go first here. I'm going to recommend a movie which I haven't seen, but that's why I'm recommending it, because it's on my watch list now. This is a film from 2013 called All Is Lost. Now, here's the real reason why I want to see it. It stars Robert Redford. And, I consider him a silver fox these days. And
I consider him yeah. Hello, Daddy.
And the story of All Is Lost is after a collision with a shipping container at sea, a resourceful sailor finds himself, despite all efforts to the contrary, staring his mortality in the face. Now, I did a little more reading on this, and basically Robert Redford plays a rich guy who has to face the reality that he's going to have to figure out how to survive on his own. Despite being a wealthy guy, he's got to dig out his survival skills.
I think that is a great suggestion. You still there?
I am.
All right. Well, I would like to recommend the Positioned Adventure. Oh wait, no, that's the Poseidon Adventure, which we were speaking about a little bit earlier. Now, if nobody's heard of this, just in case, it is a passenger ship on her way to the scrapyard, and it's pushed to her limits by the new owners to save on dismantling fees. So a tidal wave hits her, flipping her over so that all the internal rooms are upside down. And a priest takes a mixed band of survivors on a journey through the bowels of the ship in an attempt to survive. And that's a very weak undertelling of that. That's a grand adventure. And it's got, Shelley Winters in it. Shelley Winters in it, and she's a
skinny
Olympic
lady in the water.
Yeah, I mean, it's got an amazing cast. It's a fun. No matter how many times I watch it, I still get all nervous and everything. Oh, I hope they make it. Well, they're going to make it. Climb up the Christmas tree.
Right.
So,
but, and also,
grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Oh,
my grandmother made me to watch it.
Oh, so. Didn't it also have the grandpa from Willy Wonka in it?
Yes. Oh. Yeah, that was actually her husband. Mm-hmm. And she died. Spoiler alert! 50 years later, she died to make sure that he survived to go take care of the grandchildren.
And
yeah.
And if you haven't seen it, Matt, I would highly recommend some might say low budget sequel to Poseidon, Beyond the Poseidon Adventure, because it stars a young Sally Fields.
Oh, Sally Field can do no wrong.
Alrighty. So we are out here in the lobby because, Emmy Lou is just itching to get you back to the hotel.
She's got fleas again. I don't know what to tell you.
I was going to say she wants to try out the bar in the room, but hey,
you don't want her to drink.
That's what happened the last time you flew. I get it. Mm-hmm. All right, so we have this thing that we do where we tell folks about what's coming up next. So if you would go up there to the shelf and grab that bag of magic coins that was left by the magician.
Oh!
Okay. And we're going to put a coin in the machine. Alrighty. And out pops a little capsule. And if you be so kind as to pick that up for us and just open up that capsule.
Oh, well, this is nice. It looks like it's going to be an early 80s comedy drama when a boy comes to a new school and gets harassed by a bully, he acquires the services of the school's most feared kid as a bodyguard. That's right. By the director of 1990s Crazy People with Dudley Moore and Daryl Hannah, My Bodyguard, starring Matt Dillon and Joan Cusack. So next time it's going to be My Bodyguard.
Oh, and Matt, when are we getting together here at the Marionette the next time?
We will actually be here Friday, June 7th in three weeks.
That's
3
right.
weeks. Not just 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Because May is a long month, folks, and we're here the 1st and 3rd of each month. So, the matinees, they're a discounted ticket. So you don't get a third show in the same month, folks. Sorry to tell you about it.
But it's worth the wait because My Bodyguard, that's going to be fun.
Yeah, 1980 had a bunch. That was a whole turnip truck of movies that year, I hear. So, all right, Matthew, if you would look over the balcony for me and tell us who was here in the chat room tonight.
Well, we had DJ Starsage. He's always here. And then we had Mr. Lamont Cranston.
From New York City.
And Mr. Tommy Hash Browns. Always happy to see him. And Mr. Toffee Smelly sat in, which was really nice, especially, with everything going on.
Yeah. So
yeah.
We will, keep our well wishes going and think positive thoughts and, we'll keep the chair open for you, Matt, because who knows? We might have to reserve that old jet plane again for you.
Well, I always like to be on call. And, you did the M&Ms correctly. The right champagne, so I'm good.
Now, are you a collector of shoes? Are you the one that needs those special pair of Crocs waiting for you?
Well, I do have it on my list, but mainly I take them home and give them to Mom because she loves Crocs, and I'm cheap. So, yeah.
So bottom line is, if you want Matt on your show, it's not going to be the knockoff Crocs. You got to get the brand name.
That is very true. That is very true. Yep.
Alrighty. Well, we usually talk about the old days of radio. Do you remember that smart-witted lady, Gracie Allen, Matt? I mean, it's before your time.
I do not remember her. She died when I was just a little kid. But I know what you're talking about. Good night, Gracie.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to Matinee Minutia.
Our show streams live on the first and third Friday of the month.
Go to matineeminutia.com, click the YouTube icon for live video, enter Discord or chat.
You can find our show anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Visit our webpage at matineeminutia.com.
Tweet us on Twitter at Matinee Minutia.
Find our group on Facebook.
Have an idea for a show? Or why not let us know how we're doing?
Email us at matineeminutia@gmail.com.
Okay, I am going to go ahead and turn off the broadcast.